how many? You must have been on there, what, 30, 40 times? 20 times?
I don't know. I try to really space them out.
Well, yeah, now you
like
do.
I said, I can call him and go on there every 2 weeks, and he'll make up some show on why he's putting me on there. Number one, I don't want to affect our friendship. And number two, I don't want to do his podcast every week.
Right. No, I
don't want people to go, what the fuck, you live on there. So I do one thing, people. This I do. I do know that when I go on this podcast, I'm fucking prepared. I go to bed early the night before. I do exercises the one night before I go up there. I want to be mentally prepared to deal with him in that podcast. That I will not lie to you. That I do.
Well, I think even just going back to the catalog with the ones that you've been on, the early ones, like people have favorites. Like I don't know that I don't remember the numbers, but some of the early ones when you guys were on the couch are like someone's gonna eventually do a podcast history course.
Like one of the podcasts that I remember going on there and really fucking laughing was the prison one. That was the first time I remember. Like there was 2 points in my podcast career that I really remember laughing from my heart. Like that I was almost gonna die.
When you were talking about them screaming?
When I was talking about, no, not the Burt Kreischer podcast.
Okay.
One time, one of the first times I really discovered laughter on podcasting was Felicia and I were doing a podcast. Now, Felicia loved the spit thing. What do you call the black little circle you put in front of the microphone?
Oh yeah, pop filter.
Pop filter. So, and we would sit a certain way that I could see Felicia, but not really. And we were talking about something, and I told her the story about when I mugged the hooker and lit her wig on fire.
Oh yeah.
Like that was, like I for some reason it was, again, the best stories come out not when you plan them, guys. It's when you don't plan them and you lay something and the timing is right and nobody pauses you.
Are you really?
Boom.
Are you surprised that people have that reaction to mugging a hooker and lighting her wig on fire?
The reaction was fucking mind-boggling. But the podcast was at such a small level at that time that nobody really heard it. We were getting like maybe 2,000 downloads a week. But the problem with that story is that was the beginning of my podcast career, because I'm telling the story and I'm not looking at Felicia Michaels. I'm looking straight ahead while I'm telling the story. And all of a sudden, when we told the story about dragging the chicken to the cemetery and fucking making her strip, I look over at Felicia out of the corner of my eye, and her jaw is completely fucking dropped. And if you listen to the podcast, and she was editing them at that time, but if she didn't edit, you could tell I didn't finish the story because looking at her, and I knew we were onto something. What the fuck are you giggling about? Why
did you like him? What did
he did an error.
I knew a second ago, but now keep going from where you told it, because then
You know that little forehead you got?